Good morning. Hello, happy Wednesday, 8th grade. Mr. O here. Go ahead, hit pause and figure out the part of speech and definition of seethe. All right, part of speech, super easy. Seethe, seething, and seethed, which tells us this must be a verb. Very good. And for the definition slash synonym, think about it. What would a baby do when they're teething? They probably cry. They might scream. They are certainly in a state of agitation. Let's look at the very bottom sentence and see if we can get a more precise definition. I could see my father start to seethe as he read the phone bill. Think about this. Mom or dad, they look at the phone bill, it's really high. They might start getting angry. They might start shaking because of how angry they are. So to seethe is to like boil over with emotion and usually anger or sometimes pain. But seethe is to be very agitated. So very good. Let's move on. First thing I want to do today, I want you to copy down this definition. Okay, you can copy it down on the piece of paper that you do the bell work on. But I want to talk to you about foil characters. So a foil characters, sorry, are two characters that are very similar, but they have one very key difference. Okay, so go ahead and copy down that definition, and I'm going to explain, give an example. Um, Now, these characters are very, very similar. And because they are so similar, what sticks out the most is that key difference. Okay? Um, so there are a couple examples of foil characters in The Outsiders. And today we're going to talk about one pair, but there are quite a few. But so again, a foil character, they're these two characters that are very similar, but they have one difference, and that difference is what really sets them apart. Okay? So to just give you a example from a book that we've read, you might consider Jonas and the Giver. Very similar characters, both have the capacity to see beyond, but they have a key difference, and I would say that key difference is the fact that Jonas is unwilling to live in the community once he knows what release is. The giver knew what release was and he lived there for a long time. He continued to be the receiver of memory. So you see how they're very similar characters, but they have a key difference. If you've read Legend, June and Day are very, very similar, but their key difference is probably the money that they one character grew up and had a lot of money, and one did not, right? Another group of foil characters you might think about are, if you read After Ever After, we got Tad, Thaddeus, and we've got Jeffrey, both of whom have cancer, but they've got some key differences. So today what I want to do is this is our goal. How are Johnny and Dally, how are they similar? But maybe even more importantly, what's the one big difference between those two that sets them apart? Right? Obviously, they're both greasers. Obviously, they have rough home lives. But what is their big key difference? So that's going to be our goal today. So we're going to start today with Dally paying a visit to Ponyboy and Johnny. This is 5 days after the incident in the park. I loved reading your guys' creative writing pieces. They were fabulous and exciting. Obviously sad, given the content, but very nicely done. So anywho, Dally shows up and he has a letter, and this letter is for Ponyboy, and it's from Soda. Now, one thing I want to point out is Soda sent half of his paycheck to Ponyboy, and Dally says, "Hey kid, you ought to see Derry. He's taken this mighty hard." So once again, we've got this disconnect between how Ponyboy feels about his brother and what other people think about this relationship between him and his brother. So I want to read through this letter really quick. I'll read it. Ponyboy, well, I guess you got into some trouble, huh? Derry and me nearly went nuts when you ran out like that. Derry's awful sorry that he hit you. You know he didn't mean it. And then you and Johnny turned up missing, and what with that dead kid in the park and Dally getting hauled into the station, well, it scared her something awful. The police came by to question us, and we told them as much as we could. I can't believe little old Johnny could kill somebody. I know Dally knows where you are, but You know him. He keeps his trap shut and he won't tell me nothing. Jerry hasn't got the slightest notion where you're at, and it's nearly killing him. I wish you'd come back and turn yourselves in, but I guess you can't since Johnny might get hurt. You sure are famous. You got a paragraph in the newspaper even. Take care and say hi to Johnny for us. So, again, I wanted to share this with you because, again, it seems like we've got this disconnect. As soon as Ponyboy reads this letter, right? I mean, this whole time in the book so far, he's been saying things about Derry, and then other people tell us different things. Soda Pop here tells us that it's nearly killing him not knowing where Ponyboy is. Who are we going to believe? Are we going to believe Soda or are we going to believe Ponyboy? And so once again, we got to ask ourselves with a first-person narrator, sometimes it might be a little unreliable. Certainly, you're not going to speak very highly of somebody who just hit you, right? So it's understandable why Ponyboy feels the way that he does, right? So we got to always question what we read. So let's keep going. You are going to be Johnny. I'm going to be Dally. And our purpose is we are on the lookout for a couple big contrasts and contradictions. I'm talking about things that are very unexpected. See if you can find them. All right. I didn't tell y'all something. The socials are having us all out warfare all over the city. That kid you killed, he had plenty of friends all over town. Now it's Soch against Grease. We can't walk alone at all. I started carrying a heater. Kill him with switchblades too, don't you, kid? Don't worry, it ain't loaded. I ain't aiming to get picked up for murder, but it sure does help to bluff. Tim Shepard's gang and our outfit are having it out with the Socials tomorrow night at the vacant lot. We got a hold of the president of one of their social clubs and had a war council. Now, if they win, things go on as usual. If we do, they got to stay out of our territory for good. Two-Bit got jumped a few days ago. Jerry and me came along in time, but he wasn't having too much trouble. Two-Bit's a good fighter. Hey, I didn't tell you. We got us a spy. That good-looking broad I tried to pick up the night you killed that Soch. The redhead, Cherry, what's her name? Yeah, she came over to the vacant lot the night that Two-Bit was jumped. She said she felt that the whole mess was her fault, which it is, and that she kept up with what was coming off with the Soches in the Rumble, and she would testify that the Soches were drunk and looking for a fight, and that you fought back in self-defense. So, Cherry Valance, the cheerleader, Bob's girl, the Soch, was trying to help us? No, it wasn't Cherry the Soch who was helping us. It was Cherry the Dreamer who watched sunsets and couldn't stand fights. It was hard to believe a Soch would help us, even a Soch that dug sunsets. Notice anything unexpected? This is clearly unexpected to Ponyboy. He says, I can't believe that a Soch would help us, even a Soch that dug sunsets. My friends, Bob was Cherry's boyfriend, and Johnny kills Bob, and she's willing to testify against her boyfriend? That's surprising. Also, think about this. The last time we heard from Cherry, what did she say to Ponyboy? Last thing she says to him, if I see you in the hallway, it's not personal. So I wonder what caused her to change. She clearly has changed. She said, if I see you in the hallway, I won't even say hi to you. And now she's willing to go against all the other Soches and testify against her boyfriend? Very surprising. So something clearly has happened to make her change. Let's keep going. That was a good idea. I mean, cutting your hair and bleaching it. They printed your descriptions in the paper, but you wouldn't fit them now. What? You sure you want to go back? Us greasers get it worse than anybody else. The boys are worried. Two-Bit was going to go to Texas to hunt for you. No, they didn't. Blasted, Johnny. What do they matter? Shoot, my old man don't give a hang whether I'm in jail or dead in a wreck or drunk in the gutter, and that don't bother me none. Johnny didn't say anything, but he stared at the dashboard with such hurt bewilderment that I could have bawled. I felt sorry for Dally. He meant it when he said that he didn't care about his parents. But he and the rest of the gang, they knew that Johnny cared, and they did everything they could to make it up to him. I don't know what it was about Johnny. Maybe that lost puppy dog look or those big scared eyes. Uh, what what made everyone his big brother, but they couldn't, no matter how they tried, take the place of his parents. I thought about it for a minute. Derry and Soda Pop were my brothers, and I loved both of them, even if Derry did scare me. But not even Soda could take my mom and dad's place. And they were my real brothers, not just sort of adopted ones. Okay, I think there are a couple unexpected things here. What do you guys think? One, I'm surprised that Johnny decides they're going to go turn themselves in. Why would you run away if you're going to just turn yourselves in? So that's unexpected. I am also a little surprised by Dally and Johnny here. Johnny is very concerned and wants to know if his parents are worried about him. And Dally says he doesn't care what his parents think about him, which is surprising to me. So let's go back to that very first thought, that very first thing that we talked about at the beginning of class today with foil characters. How are Johnny and Dally similar? Both Johnny and Dally have rough home lives. They've got parents that aren't very involved, and they've got parents that aren't really concerned about them. They don't really care what happens to them. But then what's the difference between Johnny and Dally? If you think about it here, Dally says he doesn't care. It doesn't bother him, right? It doesn't bother him that his old man doesn't care whether he's in jail or that he's dead. But it does matter to Johnny. Now, one thing I want you to think about. Do you think Dally really doesn't care, or does he just say that in order to look tough? I think it'd be kind of hard. I can't imagine what that would feel like. So, again, we can't read Dally's mind, right? Because Ponyboy's telling the story. But if we could, maybe Dally would say, in his mind, maybe he really does care what his dad thinks. But it's very obvious that Johnny cares because you can tell by his appearance, right? He looks so sad. Whereas outwardly, Dally tries to look tough and make it seem like he doesn't care at all. All right. And the next thing you know, the church is on fire. And the characters make very interesting and unexpected choices. They decide to go into a burning church. And my question is why? Why do they go in to save those kids? They didn't. They're not responsible for those kids. Somebody should be babysitting them, right? The Ponyboy says, I bet we started it. We must have dropped a lighted cigarette or something. Maybe, but wouldn't the church have burned down a long time ago then? So anyhow, maybe they go in because they feel responsible, like maybe they started it. I want to, for a moment, look at this scene here where they're in the church because Ponyboy and Johnny act very unexpectedly. First off, it's unexpected, I would say, that either of them go into the fire, right? I mean, when I see a fire, I'm not running towards it, right? Dally does not go into the fire, right? He stays out, at least at the beginning. But there's some other things that are unexpected. Ponyboy is in a burning building, and he says, I should be scared, but I'm not. And then he asks, why aren't I scared? And then Ponyboy tells us that Johnny wasn't behaving at all like his old self. They're in the middle of a fire, but Johnny is grinning. He smiles. He wasn't scared either. That was the only time I can think of when I saw him without that defeated, suspicious look in his eyes. He looked like he was having the time of his life. What is going on? What an interesting moment here. Just a few minutes ago, Johnny is totally defeated because he realizes his parents didn't even ask, like, yo, where's Johnny? Can you imagine? He's been gone for 5 days. Think about that. Derry is losing his mind not knowing where Ponyboy is. But Johnny's parents don't even care. Johnny's totally defeated. And now he's having the time of his life? So what has changed? What's going on? All right. So I want to talk to you guys about your homework that's due on Friday. You're going to read the next 2 chapters of the book. And trust me, things get crazy. You're going to record 1 signpost. You're going to make 1 discussion question. Let me show you where that is really quick. Over here on classwork. Here is homework number 5. All right. Whoopsies. I'm going to go like this. Sorry about that. I'm going to pull it up like this. There we go. Sorry, it's easier to show it this way. There we go. Awesome. Sorry about that. Okay, so your homework is homework number 5, due Friday. It's just like the other homeworks, right? So just click on it. It'll pop up. And all you do, page number, page 88, label, brief notes, just like you've been doing. Hit turn in when you guys are done. And you just finished the video. So please comment on the stream that you finished. Love you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are enjoying The Outsiders. I'll catch you later.